It almost happened this week. We almost lost two undefeated teams. But it's still true. There's still two undefeated teams. This is Sports Hour. What's up, everyone? It's Alexander Thomas here. Welcome back to Sports Hour. This is week 13. We have only a few weeks left going into it. And we did almost lose a team to the NBL playoffs to actually make it a loss. The Dolphins and Huskies played this last week, and the Huskies almost lost after the Dolphins came back with 102 points to force overtime. But unfortunately, it did not make any difference. In the end, the Huskies were able to finish off and were able to win in the end. In fact, all three of the Monday games went overtime. It's just the fact that it's just changed by a lot. I mean, a lot of these teams were in. And a lot of these games should have been a lot closer than they actually were. Let's go and take a look here. What we got going on? Going down. Thank you. Looking at the last week, we got the Beagles and the Warriors. Warriors are still winless going in as they got crushed. And honestly, it was not that much of a surprise there, or the Eagles losing. The same thing with the Texans. Both those teams got won by a pretty good margin. As for the Indians were losing earlier in the game. They were actually losing at halftime, but they weren't. They ended up winning all the game, all the end. So the Indians still are undefeated. Meanwhile, also we had to go to the after this game. The Huskies were winning the entire game. Even during overtime, they were winning the entire game. They were tied 3 times throughout the entire game when it came to overtime, but the Huskies were able to get a win in the end, and the Huskies are still in it. The Dolphins going to 3-9. As for the game of the week, it was a pretty good game both ways. The Leland Cats were able to finish it off and able to win it out. Let's take a look at the division and who's been eliminated, who's not been eliminated. We got only a few weeks left. We only got 4 weeks up to this point. Starting off, we have the first one stuff in the NBL North. The NBL North, we have unfortunately an elimination. The Lady Legends have been eliminated at this point. Now the Cardinals have been eliminated technically from the position, but they haven't been eliminated yet from the actual playoff position. And honestly, the Legends are kind of on the position. Actually, I believe right now the Legends are actually on the block. Is that right? Yeah, Legends are actually on the block right now. Losing this week would probably knock them out right now. So unfortunately, they are a pretty big division. The same thing with the Hawks right now. The Hawks are also right now on the block. As for the Ravens and the Foxes, they are not on the block right now. So they've got some pretty close teams. We need to get communication better. So, the Legends are not on the block right now. They can still make the playoffs if they get all. If we go 4-1, their best possible record. Let's just think about this for example. The best possible record right now. The same thing with the Kings. Actually, the Kings are very much on the block. So we actually have several teams that are still on the block at this time. However, the difference is if the Kings lose this week, they will be eliminated. The Legends and Hawks might not be eliminated necessarily from the playoffs, just because of looking at things. Cardinals currently are 6-6. The best possible record right now, if you're looking at the Legends, their best possible record is 8-8. They cannot win the division. In fact, they can't even get better than seventh position. Basically, if the Cardinals and the Pirates win this week, and the Legends and the Hawks lose, both of them will be eliminated. The Kings will be eliminated if they lose either way. Their best record right now is 7-9. So basically, if the Cardinals win this week, which is probably not going to happen, then they will be eliminated. If they lose, they are eliminated, period. So there's a lot of things on the block for that one. As for the Tigers, they have clinched at this point in time. Currently, they technically are pretty close. They are, however, a half a game ahead of the Giants for the bid, so they are insured into the playoff position. The Indians have clinched going on this week. They're 10th and 1st, so they're insured into the playoffs at this point in time, even with the best possible record of 4 wins. That puts them 11-5, not enough to big games. As for the NBL East, no one's got a clue who's going to win that division. We're still clueless about who wins that division. The Browns currently are in with the 4th position. Not exactly looking at a great place for now for that one, though. As for the ABL, everyone's fighting in ABL North, too. It's pretty much anyone's game. The Legends, at this point in time, or Lightning on this point in time, the Dolphins right now, Dolphins. Right now, the Werewolves and the Lightning are both on the block, because if they lose, and the Lily Cats win, and the Athens win, or something like that, if 2 other teams that are above them win, then they will be eliminated from the playoffs at this time. They're not eliminated currently. The only 2 teams that are eliminated from the playoffs are the Warriors and the Stars. However, they're both pretty close to being eliminated. Right now, the Techs are 7-4-1. Let's assume that everyone gets at least a minute. And honestly, here's the thing. Losing this week eliminates them from the playoffs, period, because all of these teams here currently have better records than they could possibly get if they do lose. Because if they lose here, that puts them at 8, and 8 is the maximum. If 2 of these teams win and they lose, they are eliminated from the playoffs. There's just no way to get them back into the playoffs if they do lose. Now, the Werewolves might have a little bit of a chance, assuming that one of these teams that had a tie, one of these 2 teams that had a tie, or 3 teams rather, that had a tie, lose, all three of them lose, but I don't think it's very likely that there's going to be a good chance. They're probably going to get eliminated this next week. As for the Huskies at this point in time still have not clinched. There are 3.5 games ahead of Chargers, so winning this week or tying this week will ensure them a spot into the playoffs. So a win and they're in. They are not ensured the first position at this moment in time, but they're pretty close to it. The Otters also not insured. No one's clinched in the MABL at all. It just seems there's quite a few teams that are going to probably make it in for sure. Of course, right now, every one of these teams is on the block. If they lose, they're probably out. They might not be eliminated at this point in time because of the context. They could, in theory, get back, still be in the playoffs. I mean, these two teams have both got pretty good chances still, got 6-6, which means that if they go, they can go technically 10-8, which means technically they could still tie with the Otters. But losing will probably knock them out of at least getting the division. They're not eliminated, but they can still be. They're still going to have a hard time at this point in time. And of course, this is if the playoffs would happen today. These would be the teams that make it in. Now, if we were talking about the playoffs, who would act? If I were to go into the playoffs right now and say who would I think would win, I don't have the bracket up right now. I don't think, because I don't have it ready. It's not ready yet. But here's the thing: Indians would face against the Cardinals. The Pirates face against the Tigers. The Browns, I'm missed. The first seed would play the 8th seed. The second seed would play the 7th seed. The third seed would play the 6th seed. And the 4th seed would play the 5th seed. So this would be how it works for now. If I were going to say right now, I think the Indians would win round 1 against the Cardinals. And the Panthers would win round 1 against the Pirates. The Tigers and Dogs would have a pretty tough time. I think the Tigers would win that one in the end, although I think it would be really close. And the Knights would beat the Browns, so the Knights would be over it. After that, we would probably see the Indians face off against the Knights. I think the Knights might have a chance to win that one, but I think the Indians would win in the end, and the Panthers would face off against the Tigers, and the Panthers probably win, which means the NBL tournament ends would end up being the Indians versus the Pirates, which is number 1, number 2 seed, which I think honestly is really reasonable. This one I couldn't even tell you who was going to win it at this moment in time. Panthers have not clinched yet. I don't think they've even clinched they have not clinched the playoff spot either. Have they? Let's see, 6 wins. If they were going ahead and go for 4 more wins, that would be 10. Nope, they have actually clinched. They have clinched a slot in the playoffs at this time. Looking at this year, if the worst team that's in the playoffs, both these teams winning out, if the Cardinals win out, if they can't be eliminated. Looking at these teams, let's see, can they be eliminated? That means these two teams would have to be able to make it into the playoffs. Looking at that means the team would be 4 wins, that'd be 9, so yes, they could still technically get eliminated from the playoffs. So they're not clinched yet, but they are in a good position, and Panthers are in the playoffs. Over here, we just don't have anybody to decide it. The Huskies are insured. So, the Huskies are insured at this time into the playoffs. They're not insured their division yet, but they're insured. Let's see. Otters with the worst team. No, they could still get eliminated or lowered down at some point. So not yet clinched. So the Huskies have clinched. They're the only team to have clinched so far in the NBL. Let's take a look at next week. This is going to be a very interesting week. I'll do my predictions as well. Of course, from last week, here's what happened for last week. I'm still in first place. I'm actually much far ahead. Everyone's Phelps is fighting for a good position. I am currently 22 points, 22 games ahead. So we've only got. Let me calculate that for example here. It's going to see. There's only 10 games, 40 games. So in theory, right now, I have currently a 55% chance of just winning next week, assuming that I get all of them right. Currently, I have 55% chance of winning this entire thing right now, so it's neat. Yeah, since I'm 22 games ahead, that means Dog or someone in this inning has to get offense. I mean, right now, if you looked at this, minus 22, minus 23, minus 24. No, it's more than that. Minus 26, minus 30, and minus 33. So right now, I could actually make it so I cannot be last for sure. Right now, it's going to be interesting. So basically, if I win 10 games, or 10 games throughout the rest of the summer, I've won. I clinched. Currently, I'm in the best position, and I don't even know what's going to happen for that. Well, let's take a look at what we got going into this week. We will not have a fully defeated team, at least not likely. We got the Tex and the Ravens. Tex are favored by 21. This is a tough one for me going into this because looking at the Tex here currently have 15 in 5th. As for the other side here, the Ravens, they're struggling. They're just going downwards. I don't think it's going to be a Ravens win, although I could see the Ravens coming back and win this game. I'm going to put the Tex being the win this week. All right, I've got the Jets and the Tigers. This is going to be a tough one. Quite a few people will pick the Jets or pick the Tigers. Puppy picked the Jets. You got to hook something wrong here. And honestly, the Jets are favored in this game. I don't know how they're favored in this game, but they are favored by 3. Looking at this thing for the Jets position, Jets are actually pretty good. As for the Tigers, they're better. They're worse in both positions. I don't know if I can go with I'm going to say in this case, I do think the Tigers are going to win this week off of the context. I'm going to go with the Tex, and if I happen to lose, then Puppy gets 1 point more ahead of us. Looking at the Dragons and the Bulldogs, both these teams are 5 and 8. We're going to get This is tough. Looking at the Dragons are 5 and 7. They're not good in offense. They're kind of decent in defense versus the team they're facing off is the Bulldogs, who's better in offense, but not really better in defense. I'm going to say right now the better option for me is say that this is going to be a tough one. I am going to go with the favorite in this one because I do think it's going to be a difficult one to pick. I could see either one of these teams winning. We got the Husky and the Beagles. Yeah, I don't think the Huskies are going to lose. Not this week anyways. They're second in offense And even though they are not good in defense, that doesn't mean much for this one. Looking at the other group's stats, the Beagles at this point are kind of average in both positions. So this is actually a tough game for me. I still think the Huskies are going to win this one. I just don't think they're going to be able to come up with that. All right, on Monday, Pirates and the Falcons. Pirates will win this game. There is little chance that the Falcons will come up with enough points to be able to do it up here. Falcons are pretty bad in both positions. As for the Pirates, they're pretty decent in pretty average in offense. Both these teams are average offenses. Both these are not great defenses, but in context, I think the Pirates do win this one. Indians and Angels. If the Indians are favored by 44. Indians currently are 10th and 1st. 10th in offense and 1st in defense versus the other team. Here they're facing off against, is just the Angels. No, there's just no chance. This is going to be a very easy Indians win, and that means we're going to still have another undefeated team. Oh, we got the game of the week. No, we don't have the game of the week. It's not the game of the week, but honestly, it's a sad. These two teams have nothing to fight for. Both have been eliminated from the playoffs. Both are terrible teams. The Stars are favored by 4. And this is going to be a back and forth battle of all game long. And honestly, this is just not a fun game. I don't even know how to put this one. I have to look at this one because this was ridiculously difficult. We got the Warriors, who are dead, pretty much next to dead last in both positions. I think they actually are dead last. No, they're not quite dead last. Stars are dead last, are pretty much dead last. They're only defensive worsened. They're actually dead last in both positions. I don't think there's anyone who's worse than them in either one position, with the exception of the Warriors. No, I don't think this is going to be a fun game for either one of them. The Stars are actually -3 when it comes to power rankings. Warriors needs to have a point when it goes to power rankings. I just don't see either one of these teams doing well. Honestly, I'd rather this game just to be not played, because this game is just so sad. I am going to go with the favorites here, but honestly, this game should not be played at all. They're just both terrible teams. We got UNC and the Foxes. This is going to be a UNC win. UNC is a much better team when it comes to it, and they've actually done a lot better when it comes to this recently. UNC has a much better defensive ranking versus the team they're facing off against, which is the Foxes. They just don't. Foxes are padded both sides of the field, so UNC wins this game. Cardinals and the Giants, both these teams are terrible. But I would love to see the Cardinals win this week, just because I want to keep some of these teams out of the playoffs, to say some of these teams get out of the playoffs. I mean, looking at the predictions for this, I originally predicted the Cardinals to miss the playoffs, so I kind of want them to not win, because I had the Panthers making the playoffs. Looking at the Giants, though, I don't think I had them even making the playoffs by even close. I think I actually had them in 3rd, but not by much. I don't think I had the Giants at 6 and 4. I had the Tigers in 2 and 4, which was complete whiz, and then I had the Ravens actually apparently lower than them somehow. Don't know how I got that. But in my prediction, I will say I do think the Giants are going to have a slightly better game. I'm going to go with the Giants win this one. All right, Bears and the Kings. This is going to be an absolute setting. The Kings are favored. Everyone went with the Bears today. So maybe I should, if I go with the Kings, obviously, I should probably go with the Bears here, just because of the Kings. Looking at the Bears are terrible in offense and terrible in defense. The Kings are terrible in offense and terrible in defense. Well, they're going to do better in defense. I think the Kings do better here. I'm going to go with the Kings, and that's another game that someone else they might catch up with. Lions and the Panthers, a pretty terrible game for the Panthers. I don't think it's even fair. Panthers win this game all the way. Okay, we got the Chargers and the Knights. This is again, Luke. The game of the week. And honestly, this is a very, very tough game. This is so tough for me. Looking at these stat lines for both of these teams, the Knights have something to play for. They're 6th in offense and 20th in defense. They're not great in defense. Versus the other team here for the Chargers, they have a lot to fight for. Looking at this, they're looking at trying to get into the playoffs. They're 4th and 20th. I think the Chargers do have a better team at this point in time. But unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Knights. I'm going to go with the Knights winning this game. Dogs and the Legends. This is all the marbles for the Legends. If the Legends lose, they're out. The Dogs definitely want to win here, because if they do win, they're probably going to make themselves into the playoffs at least. Legends are pretty much already out of the playoffs anyways. They can't win the division. The Cardinals can't win the division either. They're not eliminated from the playoffs. They're currently in the 8th position. And we're going to say right now this is going to be a tough one. I'm going to go with the Dogs winning this one. And I think, honestly, Dogs should win this one by a pretty hefty margin. Saints and the Browns. Browns favored by 17. This is a pretty tough matchup between these two teams. Look at the Browns. Browns are trying to hold on to the top of the division. And I should point out, if the Angels lose this week and the Browns win this week, and let me put it this way. Let's just say the Browns win, the Saints lose, and the Angels lose. The Browns actually clinch the playoffs. So we have a lot. The Browns really need to win this week. However, their offense is terrible, and I just don't think they're going to have enough. I'm going to go with the Saints winning this week, and I do think it's going to be a much closer game, pretty close game. Werewolves and the Lightning. Both these teams are terrible. Werewolves are favored by 41. I don't even think it's fair to say either one of these teams deserve to even play here, because but they both are actually at least trying to fight something. Lightning are actually someone in the playoffs hunt still. They can't actually winning and then everyone else losing could. Oh shoot, let's rephrase that. If they win and the Cats lose and the Athens lose, they might actually have a chance to win the division. Are they going to win the division? Probably not. They're pretty chance. I'm going to go with the Werewolves winning this week. I don't think it's going to be much of a competition. Packers and Otters. This is actually a pretty tough game, because the Packers and Otters are actually fighting for the division right now. Otters haven't clinched the playoffs yet, believe it or not. Looking at the Otters, if by chance everyone else that's below them wins this week, or wins and they continue, and they lose. If they lose out, that puts them at 10-6. All these, let's say that all these teams go to win at least 4 more games, or at least 3 more games for some of these teams, they could get eliminated from the playoffs. I think they are fighting. This is a fight. I feel like the Packers are actually showing something, and I'm going to say the Otters, I would love to say that you guys are going to win, but I think the Packers are going to be the ones that win this week. All right, we got the Superman in the 8th, and I think this is a very tough battle. This could easily have been the game of the week 2, but it's going to be the Superman that win this week. The Supermen are just way too good when it comes down to this. In the 8th, and are very much trying to fight for the division. And they might still make the playoffs off the Cardinals. They currently are 9th. They're just out of the playoffs, but they could make the playoffs. They're 998, which is why they're not in the playoffs currently. The Texans are slightly better, and it just comes down to it. This is going to be a close one for that, but I'm going to say that Superman win this game. The Lynx and the Dolphins. Lynx win all the way. I don't see any such scenario where the Lynx do not win, which will put the Lynx one game closer to be putting themselves ahead of the division. I gave the Packers the win here, so if these both games occur, the Packers will be one step closer to being ahead of the division. All right, let's say here for the Leyland Cats and the Hawks, if the Hawks have been on a winning streak the last couple weeks, looking at the Hawks themselves, Hawks have won 3 games straight. And honestly, they've been playing against some pretty tough teams, too. They won against the Lynx previously. They've won the last 3 games straight, and they've won pretty comfortably in all 3 this week. They actually didn't win by a lot when it comes to Legends, but they're in a pretty good winning streak. The bad news is they face off against the Leland Cats this week, and unfortunately, I don't see them winning against the Leland Cats. Sadly, I will have to put the Cats winning this game. On Monday, it's maybe going later, but maybe that puts them in a better position. I don't think they didn't play on Monday, one of these weeks, so yeah. We got the last game, the Bobcats and the Colts. The Bobcats have played a lot of games on Monday. Colts are favored by 4. I think, honestly, it's favored. I don't know why that is. The Colts do win this week. Bobcats just don't have what it takes for it. Those are my predictions right now. And I do want to take a look at one final thing, where the power rankings are going into this, because we got a few things. Look at everyone. Panthers are ahead by 10 points over the Supermen. Let me put it this way. If, let's just say the Panthers lose every game, the Superman, the Lynx, or the Huskies can still technically be in first. But it's going to be so difficult to do this, because that means the Panthers have to lose every game. That will put them down. I would want to put this over here. That would put them down at 25 points. Their best position, assuming they win every one of these games, win every game, they don't get any bonuses, that would put them at 23. That puts them at 21 points if they win, 21 points if they win, 21. It is going to be so very difficult, because what would have to happen is not only would they have to win, they would have to win by at least they had to be win when they were down. And unfortunately, none of these top teams are down. They're all predicted to win, which means it's going to be very difficult for it. Well, okay, the Otters have a little bit, could actually go up 1 here. The bad news is they all have to be favored to lose by more than a good position, which means they have to win by 25 in order for it. All these teams would have to win this week. The Panthers would have to lose. I think the Panthers are going to ensure they're going to get first position. This means something when it comes to the World Playoffs. I'm going to go talk real quickly at the World Playoffs. Let me see here. Is this one? It's not that one. The World Playoffs haven't been ensured anything. Again, these don't mean anything until after the playoffs over. The two things that come into effect are going to be what their final record is. That's the first thing. The power rankings, the second thing, and how far they go in the playoffs. So basically, the winner of the entire division, the entire thing, will be first. We'll get the number 1 seed, most likely. And the second seed will be the number 2 seed, which will be whoever loses this. So those are the only two teams that really make much of a difference. The power rankings mean something when it comes to the fact of everyone else, pretty much. That is it for Sports Hour for this week. Thank you guys for watching. Dolphins did really well this week, and even though they lost, they did really well. Maybe that means something going into next week. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to keep your game on, and thank you for watching Sports Hour at week 13.